Welcome back.
Welcome to the Basic Banter for Witches.
This week, we're very excited. We've got like a new old friend.
Yes.
Old new, But we've like met before and then rekindled, and now we're like cha-cha-chaing together. So it's great. We've got Jamie Kohlruss with the Burgeoning Point.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you guys for having me. I was like beyond excited, and I'll be honest, I had like this starstruck moment when you guys reached out and were like, hey, let's have you on the podcast. I was like, oh my gosh, me? Okay.
Which I think like is crazy.
That's our ego, and that's our imposter syndrome being like, we're nobodies.
We're nobodies. We're just two traders who do this as a hobby. I'm like, people, And
then we forget that people listen, and we're like, ah,
exactly.
This is a real thing.
But it is good because we started this for like us, and like cool if people listen, whatever if they don't, right? But it's like,
then we have it.
Thank you for like being here and like supporting us on the journey here.
Thank you guys for having me.
Of course. So a little bit about us and like how we connected initially. So me and Jamie did our intro to spiritual gifts course through Bev Lazar. And I remember when we first, like, I don't know if I've told you this before, like when we first got to interact, like one of the rules that Bev has is like, don't get to know each other, because like having that foundation of like anonymity almost is really beneficial throughout the course for like mediumship and all of this. So we like really couldn't like exchange too much information. Like I didn't get your number or email or anything like that. So it was like, okay, bye. It was like I knew your first name and that was it.
I know, it was ridiculous. I was like, how do I find you?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, sorry, little man. It's just okay.
Gotta do a quick burp over here.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Edit this out.
Yeah.
Like,
Come on. The burpees have to come.
say, oh, hello, Spence. It'll be a good burp. But
getting the bubbles to the top, right? So it's like,
yeah.
So like towards the end of the course, when like when we really could start to connect, it was like our last like session together. And of course then we had a family funeral that I had to go to, and I was obviously very sad. I mean, it was a big loss for our family. It was coming. It was it just happened to be planned on the day. Oh wait, just give him it's okay. Give him a minute. I'll pause, or I'll just like do my little. Harrison, would you like to join in?
He has so much to say.
all the time.
Are you sped up a bit?
No.
Okay.
Just getting him re-cozy, because if I got a burp, it was just a tiny one.
But yeah, so then I was like super bummed. I remember telling Bev, I was like, I really want to go, but obviously that's the way it worked out. But
Sorry, guys.
That's okay. The universe works in mysterious ways, and like I guess it was when it all kind of came about. Like you had opened up your business in, was it April or March?
I launched my website in December, and then I've kind of just like left it alone, and I'm so not great with social media. So it was probably about April when I was like, hey, I exist, and these are some things that I do.
No,
yeah, so it's probably about April when I like officially launched it out there. Yeah,
because it was like it just happened to coincide with so many things in our lives. I was like, oh, Jamie, like I know her. And then another gal in our class was connected with Brittany, and it was just, and you guys know each other from high school. Like what? And it's like, of course, like a blessing that we didn't get to know each other back when, because it like got to create like this foundation of like, again, like aside from our personal lives, like in that metaphysical sense. So it's really cool. So
it's just when someone is meant to be in your life, how funny, like whatever moment it would be, is that you get put back into their life. And I didn't
literally,
like what Jessica was saying, that you and I had met in high school through a mutual friend, and like I couldn't tell you where you and I met. I just know that I knew you.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I don't even know what the hell. And I was like, yeah, okay, fair. At least we're both in that. And but it's funny how like after even chatting with you over text and email and still not realizing who you were until I saw your picture, and I'm like, I know.
right? Yeah, it's so crazy how the universe just like continually puts these people in your field. It's like, no, you guys need to be with each other. And like I said to you guys after our last event, I was like, I feel like I found my soul family. It's growing, and I feel so blessed and just like privileged to have you guys in my space. And like yeah, when we're in high school, how do you know that this is what it's going to end up being? You don't, right? You
That's
just go
it.
through life, and then, to have it kind of be brought back is just really a beautiful gift. I'm
Yes.
grateful for
I
it.
do think like Saskatoon is like a small world, but even saying that, like the world that we've been existing in is so vast that making those connections, especially when they come like this, is so like unique. And yes, we might have, crossed paths years ago, but like we weren't meant to truly connect until now. So
And I feel like moments like that just reaffirm how much the universe literally is in charge.
Yeah.
Where you're
Right?
like, nice, okay.
Exactly.
Okay, I got
Yeah,
this.
you can
Just
but we
surrender
weren't-
to it.
Yeah, like years ago, I mean, for you guys, I mean,
We have no
it's
idea.
like we weren't mature enough to do that yet, right? And that
100%.
awakening hadn't happened for us for a lot of it, or we were dealing with, as you guys would have been teenagers, like everything else we were dealing with as teenagers, right?
We were just, probably just drinking.
I was gonna say,
Right? Just being little peanuts in our own little worlds, like, where's my next paycheck? Or what am I doing
Yes.
this weekend?
Exactly, I need
Literally.
gas, or I need to pull for
Yeah.
booze.
Who's partying? Yeah, exactly. Where's the party at this
Where's the
weekend?
party at? Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
So we had talked in one of our previous episodes that we recorded about, doing the full moon ritual with you. Which is really exciting. So now that was your second event.
Yeah, my second event at Bev Center. So that's like a big deal for me. I'm a Sagittarius. You might not even like grasp that because I'm so like shy. I'm like Cancer moon, so I'm just like really in, and like I hate putting myself out there. And feel like Bev's encouragement, I was like, okay, yeah, I really want to do this. Let's kind of take it out of my immediate friend circle in my living room and make a big thing out of this, make a deal, and offer this to more people. And so yeah, it was my second event that you guys reached out, and it was just like it was so beautiful.
That's so good. Yeah, no, it was so great. And I mean, because we've had a lot to do with that in terms of like being on the back end with you and like planning and preparing and stuff. But even as like somebody going to it, like I was really able to take a lot out of it.
Yeah.
It was great.
So nice.
It truly was. And like, we've tried to build a community in this and, get people talking and get people connecting. And I thought it was such a great opportunity to like bring people together who, are looking to share in those experiences with new people as well. Find people with like-minded things. So I love that.
Yeah, and
that same space.
yeah, thanks. It's really something that I find like super important, especially now, like I hate to bring it up, but like post COVID, just that personal connection and like that face to face and really just like feeling somebody's energy and just being there. It's few and far between. And if we can gather in, a sense, like you said, with like-minded people, like magic literally happens, and you can't deny that piece. And you walk away feeling like, wow, I was really part of something, and something within my own self too. And then you kind of have that community to rely on for whatever you are going through, and especially in that spiritual sense, not everybody is on that same wavelength. So when I like talk to people about what I like doing, or things that happen, they're kind of like, oh, okay. So it's really nice to like have that space of people that also maybe experience those things or are interested in it, and they can go, wow, that was really neat, or cool.
Yeah, if they've got questions about things that are like that they're curious about in terms of this, and it's like, because I know we all have friends that aren't as open-minded in that sense, or that we feel like we can't express that fully. So again, bringing that into
it's like talking in a different language though too to those people, whereas when you
Yeah.
do have those people that like are totally right there with you, it's like you're talking in a completely different language for other people that are like, what?
I don't get
I
it.
know. Like if I said to you guys, I have this amazing vision, you'd be like, tell me about it. If I said that to somebody else, they'd be like, what? A
Like,
vision?
what's wrong with your eyes?
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
How did you see that again?
Yeah, exactly. What's your med dose at?
That's right.
Yeah.
Which valid point.
Right? Yeah. So I agree. It's like speaking another language, and it's really beautiful when you can connect on that level.
Yes.
You do have like a way of curating these like beautiful events as well. So, oh my goodness, man.
One moment.
It's like, come on,
Let's
guys.
quickly try this again. I know, buddy. You had so many bubbles in that last drink that I'm like, you've got to just
Get it out.
Gotta get him out. Gotta get
Cluster feeding.
Fun growth spurt time.
The second leap.
Wonder Weeks is like an amazing tool for parents. Like, I don't know how I survived my first without it. I had it for my second, and I was like, oh, I'm so much more understanding of things now.
I know I bought it with when I had my first. And Brittany's, I was like, you can log in with mine, but they don't do that. You can't do it. You need to download the.
Yeah.
Like,
So I'm just gonna buy it because at this point I'm just like, fuck.
I was like going over the app with her today. I was like, oh, by the way, he's in a second leap, and like these are all the signs. I'm like,
And then I have 9 more days of this. I'm like,
Right?
exactly.
That part sucks when you're like, I have how much longer here?
Exactly. Oh, poor
no,
boy.
no sad faces.
I know.
It's fine.
But yeah, so like I was saying, like you've got a way of curating these really beautiful, like magical events. Like when we had gone, it was the spring. That's right, strawberry full moon, and you just did such a beautiful. It was such a great
so
space.
awesome.
I think Bev's is a wonderful space to begin with, but like when like I didn't really know. Not what you were going to do, but you know what I mean? It's like, okay, we're going to go and we're going to hang out. Like, no, you had this beautiful crystal grid set up in the middle of the room. You had this like bouquet of flowers. It was just so beautiful.
Yeah.
It was so well thought out that it like, you could just tell that this is a big passion of yours.
Yeah.
So I guess I wanted to ask, you know, through your spiritual development and like, you know, through your gifts, what, I guess you're quite drawn to moon cycles and phases. So why do you know why that pulled you, or
like what would be your story? Like tell us from the
Yeah.
beginning.
I guess tell us how the heck
Sure. So I've been through 2 divorces and I'm only 35. So like that's a lot for one human to kind of go through and experience. And I found myself like single mom. I had my own place with my 2 kiddos, and like this stress load was just insurmountable. I was really trying to live like the traditional, how I should, how you're dictated to live your life. And it was overwhelming. I was working like a crazy job that was very demanding. I never really had a break. It was through COVID. So I was like working from home, both kids were home. And I ended up finding myself just like feeling really helpless, and my health really just started to deteriorate like rapidly. I found myself on like medical leave for work. I couldn't continue the way that I was going. And the person that I am, like for work, like for corporate work, I like analyze, process, and pick out the things that don't work and find a solution for it. And it was kind of like, why can't I do that with my own self? Like that's probably the hardest spot, is to like look within and go, what do I need to fix? And kind of just at the same time, one of my friends had said like, hey, I have this like person who's doing full moon circles. It's a really large group. Would you like to like maybe be a part of it? I think it'd be really good for you. I had no clue what I was walking into, but I was just like, you know what? F it, throw caution to the wind, and like, let's just step out of my comfort zone and see what this has to offer. I'll literally take anything at this point to feel something other than like sadness, And the first time I went, it was such like, I walked into this space and it was just this loving energy that I was greeted with. I knew nobody but my friend there. So I was like this terrified little baby. I'm like, oh man, all these people are really going to see me. And so it kind of came around for me to share, and I couldn't talk. I was just bawling. Like I'm not an emotionally expressive person in that sense. So it was really shocking to me to like not be able to get a word out, and I was just crying. And these women were just so gracious and so beautiful just to hold this space for me while I literally wept.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what I was weeping about. I was just like, okay, I'm here and this needs to move. Like, thanks for creating this space for me. And I'll be honest, I like got really scared after that. Like they were so beautiful and so welcoming, and they're just like, you can just be here and that's totally fine with us. Like just be a part of this. And I did, and I finished it off. And then I had a hard time coming back after, because I had been so vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it was so different from what, I was used to being around people. And so I kind of like started to do it on my own. I was like, there's got to be something more to this. Like, what is this moon cycle? And I remember my nan, like, she would always say around a full moon, she's like, people act crazy. They do their own things. And like, that's why you can't sleep at night. And I was kind of like, really? Okay. So kind of grew up with that my whole life. And then it was like, but why? And just that, again, that analytical part of me, I was like, let's dive in, let's research. And so I bought books and I read things and I like started following different like people on Instagram that were, focused on astrology, focused on moon cycles. And it really just started to like call to me. And then I started to practice new moon and full moon like quite religiously just on my own. Like I would literally have like my crystals in like baking sheets outside and like I'm talking 3 baking sheets full of crystals outside,
That
like
is a brilliant
charging that
idea. I never
energy
thought
up.
of doing that. That's awesome.
I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah. And like, I would just really start like, okay, what's the astrology like? Like, I know on the new moon we bring in intentions, and I know on a full moon we release what doesn't serve us anymore. But like, what is that thing? Like, where do I need to focus? And so like kind of coming back full circle, I found that the moon cycles and like these, full moon and new moon rituals were really allowing me to like find myself and like pull out those pieces that I really do love about myself that I maybe didn't share so openly, or I felt maybe more ashamed to share because they weren't in line with how I grew up, or they weren't, maybe as acceptable to my circle of people. And then doing the deep dives and like, really addressing those shadow pieces, it was kind of like, that's when everything clicked. It was like, I've been a part of this cycle, these repetitive cycles that keep me in this space of like unhappiness almost. And, okay, I'm the common denominator in all of these situations. I got to change something about myself if I really want to be happy in my life and I want to feel like I'm proud to be in the skin, this meat suit as Bev calls it, that I have, and like really let my spirit shine. And that's when I just was like, man, there's so much here, and like I need to give this to other people. I need to be able to like share these changes and be able to help other people to do that. And so I really started to like just offer them to my super close friends, and we'd do it in my living room, and it'd be like, okay, my kids aren't home this night, like come on over, let's really get to it, and it was just like, it was so powerful even just to sit with some of my closest people and like really watch them dive into themselves and like be brutally honest with how they were caring about their life. And like, it was also a safe spot for me to like really be emotional and to allow that, like those feelings. Because when you're looking at, maybe those pieces that aren't so great in your life, or those habits that you have that you're like, those are so cringy. But when you deep dive into them and go, well, why? Why is this a piece that I'm cringy about? Well, maybe because this, or, somebody said that wasn't okay. And just shining a light on those pieces and being able to like let go. Like that was a huge thing for me. I would just keep everything in and I would keep it all bottled up. And like, there's something so magical about being able to write it out on a piece of paper, what I don't want in my space anymore and in my energy, and like light that shit on fire and watch it go.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, it's gone. I got to leave it now,
I
or
mean,
sitting down with like an intention. And I really started to like outwardly say what my intention was. And that, to me, I was like, I'm committing that to the universe. I'm saying, this is what I want in my space. This is what I want to call into my life. I'm committing to myself and to you that I'm working on it, that we're going to get there, So it was honestly transformational and like getting me to who I am today. I owe it all to the moon circles and to the cycles. I'm being very honest. It's just been like this beautiful ride of like finding myself.
Yeah. And so with your name of your business as well now, we briefly talked about it before we started recording, but can you tell us again where the name came from?
Yeah. So like with my own self, I really felt like this was a journey of like blooming into who I am. And I didn't want to call my business Jamie. It just didn't feel right for me.
Yeah.
And I kind of stumbled upon this. Like, I love writing. I love complicated words. And I was just like, like, how do I word this? How do I growth and blooming. And so the burgeoning point is just that. It's like the point in which you start to bloom, start to grow and on that journey. And it is a beautiful thing. So
Point where things start to change, right?
yeah, exactly. It's that jumping off point to something different and growing into yourself. So
So
I
amazing.
love that.
It's hard because I mean, especially in this world, with it being new to so many people, accepting that the growth is happening this way. How did you find, because obviously like your person, your wholeness has changed for the better, and it needed to change as everything does. How did you find that in terms of acceptance and the fear of people around you not accepting it?
I love that you asked me that.
Of course.
No, it's beautiful. It's so in line. Like, I'm just grateful that you asked this question. What I really started to change, or I guess what I stopped doing, was people pleasing. And so I spent a lot of my life people pleasing and quieting myself to, make space for everybody else. So I didn't make space for myself. I felt like I don't have that right to take up the space or to say what I need or how I feel or what's important to me, or even just to say no to situations that weren't in alignment. Like I was the yes person, like, yeah, for sure, I'll help you with that. Yeah, for sure, I'll be there. And my calendar would be swamped. And I'd be like, man, I can't even do my own laundry or go buy groceries for me and my kids. Like, what am I doing? Like, why am I putting all this energy out when I really need to bring it in? And so I found that a lot of the people that have been in my life the longest were really finding a rub with this. It was like, what do you mean you're not the yes person anymore? What do you mean I can't just come to you and dump and you'll just take it and make me feel better and I'll walk away and be great?
Yeah.
So I found a lot of like relationships, friendships, like even honestly, even my relationship with my parents changed like night and day. It was completely different. It was really hard for them to like kind of get on board with the new now version of me that is like, nope, I'm here, I'm taking up space, and I'm totally okay with the way that I want to live my life. Because I'd always really lived by their standards and their rules and tried to fit into that little picture. Well, sometimes that's, 16-year-old Jamie that they were still thinking of, right? Things happen, life changes. And I was in a relationship through all of this, and being able to dig into myself. It was a really unhealthy relationship, and I didn't realize it until I was like, wait a minute, like, whoa, I'm changing too much of me. And these are the pieces that I love and that I fought so hard to like not have to change in my other relationships. Don't go down this road again. So there was a lot of like end in my relationships, but there was also so much more beginning, and so many new people were placed in my space. And I started taking, classes at Bev's right in this kind of window. And it just like, holy shit, it opened up my world to like, man, there's just some people that just love you for who you are and they don't care where you've been and they're just here to be here with you. And it was like, that's beautiful. I want more of that.
Yeah, when you can love somebody for them and not like their abilities or their
you can love them for who they are instead of what you can gain from them.
Exactly. Like, I don't care that you can do these. I want you. Do you know what I mean? We want to have a conversation with you, and we want to like get to know you as a person, not because of your connections or your freedom and schedule or whatever, right? Like, yeah, I think that's so good. I love that. When we did our last full moon circle, everything comes back to that. It's great. Yeah. It was, I mean, like, I feel like when we do these kind of things, I feel like those themes kind of resonate throughout the month. So I feel like I'm still riding that wave. But we had one gal who, what was she saying? It was her identity over I can't remember her name, but her identity over the last 30 years had been X, right? And now she was retiring and kind of figuring it out. And I know I said to her, like, that quote I found, it was like, if you met me 10 years ago, come reintroduce yourself, because, but that's what I mean. Like, we are meant to change, and we are meant to always be burgeoning in a way, right? Like, we should always be on the point of the next change and continuing to grow. And I mean, in this world, I don't know if we can ever truly be done blossoming. Do you know what I mean? That's a limitation that doesn't exist to me.
Yeah, I agree. Like We talked about in the full moon, like once you stop learning, as long as you're learning, you're living. And even that learning about yourself, that's personal growth. That's that healing journey that all again comes back full circle. It never stops. And I think Jess, you even said that, or Britt, I can't remember, but one of you said it in the circle, like it's the healing journey never ends. It's a continuous cycle, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's it. It's always shedding another layer, and you're like, oh, gotta heal that now.
Exactly.
That's fun.
And
Right.
sometimes it's like once you feel that layer, I feel like always at that time, or like within that relative time, whatever speaking, it's like somebody else comes into your life that needs to hear the message too. Do you know what I mean? I feel like, oh, I just learned this about myself. Take it or leave it. Do you know what I mean? And then I feel like it's like that word of mouth healing as well. It's like once we finally healed that part of ourselves, then we can share the how to. Do you know what I mean? And it's
100%.
You can't plan that. It's just like, hey, that resonated with me. Take it. If that's going to help you too. And then so on and so forth, right? It's like, yeah.
And I think too, we like to, look to other people to see their success in that journey before we maybe dive in for ourselves. So, it just takes one fearless individual in your circle, or like you said, in your space, to be like, you know what? No, I'm going for this. And like, even just watching somebody's journey is a really beautiful thing. And like, to have somebody to rely on and just say like, hey, I saw you go through that, or something similar, like, how did you make it through that dark time, or like, how good does it feel on this side of stuff? And that's one thing that I find, like, lots of people that I know or friends have always come to me with like, okay, wow, you've been through the things, like, what's going on here? Like, you're so good now. And it's like, yeah, but I really had to be in that dark space, and I really had to welcome it in and sit with it and go through the hard stuff and like feel hopeless in order to like call in the light that I needed to move forward.
Exactly. I feel like it always, sorry, I'm just talking on my, but I feel like there's almost like we feel like there's an obligation to our prior selves and to those connections that we used to make to stay the way we were. Do you know what I mean? Like we feel like we have to continue to represent that previous person and those previous likes. And like, again, those relationships that we've made at that point in our lives. And if we at all change and deviate, then it's like we're growing apart. You know what I mean? Like there's some people where I'm like, are we friends still? Have we grown apart? Are we accepting each other in this next chapter of our lives? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, as this goes out to both of you, when other people change, what's your first instinct? Do you know what I mean?
I feel like, well, in my life experiences, it's all about grief, and it's grieving the person that you did know. It's grieving, the amazing memories that you would have had, or the not so good memories that you would have had of that person. And now you're seeing them now, and you have that opportunity to create a whole new life adventure with them. But grief is even what you had gone through multiple times in your life already. And people say, yeah, you're really good now. And you're like, well, I had to grieve. And like, people don't realize that grieving is a forever thing. It's not just hey, you just got to do these 5 things and then you're done grieving.
Yeah, no, it's not that. I completely agree. You'll find situations that will kind of take you by surprise, and you'll be like, oh shit, I'm still grieving that. Like, oh man, I really feel that. And I think the important part about grief is to like address it as it comes, and to not like push it aside and ignore it, because it'll come back. There's no way that it lets you go until you work through it and move through it.
Totally. I feel like I have like in my own personal life so many like things that like I've tried to like get out and like be shed of, but like there's still like relationships, and there's still like moments of like oh, I just wish I could forget it or like move on. And it's like I feel like I'm grieving all the time for what I had and no longer have. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like want, or you know what I mean?
It's so that is like a good stage in grieving.
But I feel like I've been in it forever. But you know what I mean? It's like it takes one memory or one like it's like, oh, I'm right back where I was. It's like it's like a therapeutic thing.
But there's a reason why you have to keep going through that.
It's so annoying, but I'm like,
it's annoying. Yeah, grief is not fun.
Grief is not fun.
It is not fun.
I don't know. There's no like one way to get through it either. I do.
No, you know what? There is not one way to get through it, and everybody kind of finds their own way through it. And like, I'm a firm believer that the universe keeps putting, situations like you said, these memories that bring up that grief they'll keep putting it in your field and they'll present you with it so that you can really work through it, so that you can really let it go. And maybe the last time it brought itself up, you didn't have the time or space to really investigate fully, or you got a piece of it and you're like, shit, that's hard. Like, oh, that's all I can handle right now. And that's okay. Right?
Also,
Like
like
it's
tricked when something comes up. I'm like, oh, it's because there's, this is supposed to be in my life, but this, and I'm like, but it's not. You know what I mean? I feel tricked, or I'm reading it the wrong way, and it's like, well, no, because I asked for a sign, and this is the sign. I don't know. But
you know what? I
yeah.
feel like I'm gonna say this, and sorry for swearing, but the universe is a fickle bitch, but I love it at the same time because it's like, no, 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 you didn't fully do that. Here you go again until you get it.
Until you get
And
it.
like it sucks. It sucks so much sometimes. Like I used to just, like, okay, it's in the rear view, head down, move forward, plow through. And like, I never dug through that grief. And that was a big part of like why I ended up getting sick, was because it was like, you can't carry this forever. Like you have to go through it to be able to grow.
Exactly.
And it was not a fun experience for me.
No, totally. And it's like in our like soul contract, a lesson that we need to learn. And it's like, okay, it's like,
You're like, again, get to learn
Yeah.
this again.
yeah.
Great.
So,
Yeah.
On the topic of grief and like letting go. So we, in this last full moon, and every full moon, right, the intentions are to release and shed what no longer serves us in like every sense of the word. And then of course in a new moon, it's about bringing in the good and setting intentions and manifesting and da. So we're moving into, this podcast is probably gonna come in what July, I think. So we can plan around the full moon.
We can
or the new
plan
moon.
this to be around a full moon for
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. So everybody's taking selfies.
I'd take a selfie with the boy because he's looking so cute and he like never sleeps like this. I'm just like,
Enjoy every second of it.
before he gets like too big and just wiggles around constantly and then doesn't want anything to do with me. I need all these moments.
Exactly. You never
Yes.
know. He's got a full, actually Colin used to do that. He's like grab my
Yeah,
shirt
he's holding on to
and
my
like
likes to hold on
hold
to
it
my
close and be like, yeah, don't let me go. Anyways,
Yeah.
So yeah, we're moving into a new moon. So I know you've got an event going on at Bev. So I mean, I hope, and I'm manifesting for you, that this is going to be an ongoing monthly thing for you, which I feel like it will be.
Yep.
And we'll do all of your stuff in the show notes afterwards, like how to connect and how to get registered in these. I know that we've got big plans for the future in that, but now, going into a new moon, is there, and we'll get to the full moon as well, but going into a new moon, we've done new moon episodes in that, but do you have any, not how-tos, but any recommendations to like help people prepare for that next phase, literally?
Yeah, so new moons, like I find myself really like in sync with the moon cycle. So like I feel that energy shift all the time. And so a new moon is like the darkest part of the moon, the lunar cycle, right? So that's when the sun's kind of away and it's just dark and you're supposed to go inward and you do nothing. Like you do nothing leading up to the new moon, and just kind of after it, it's really about like solitude or just being with yourself, having that self-reflection and like rest, because nobody rests enough anymore. So like I find for myself, my energy is like, oh man, like 20%. I feel like I can never sleep enough. The basic tasks seem like they're so draining. And it's like, hey, new moon, time to rest, girl. Like just sit, do nothing, be with yourself, do some self-care. And it's really hard work to dive into yourself. New moon, full moon, you're doing it on both, but in a different way. And it takes a lot of work and a lot of energy. So if you can rest before your new moon and rest a little bit after and just be with yourself is kind of like the best advice I could give, I guess.
I'm literally in that like right now. Like I am like, I've started to, my cycle has joined up with the moon phases in a sense. And I'm ovulating right now.
Yeah.
And it is a kick me in the ass experience. I don't know about like ever since like I've had 2 kids, I'm not on birth control, but do you mean like I'm really listening to my body and like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I just realized how fucking tired I am all the time.
Yeah.
God.
You're like,
literally, I'm like, I just need a nap and I'm gonna sleep for like a couple hours. You know what I mean? Like, oh,
Do it. Like give
Yeah.
yourself that space if you can. Like that's kind of the thing that I say to, like, I have lots of girlfriends that reach out and they don't really know where the phase is and they're like, Jamie, why am I so tired? Like what is going on? I feel like I have no energy. And I'm like, hey, it's time to rest. Like, just listen
Yeah.
to your body. Don't try to find a reason why, just do it.
Exactly. Yeah. Just rest.
Yeah,
When you have the energy to do more, you will have the energy to do more.
exactly. And that's fine. There's a
Yeah.
time and place for that.
And we don't ask why we have so much energy.
Like the rest, and now I'm like, I'm tired. I'm like,
Why do I have so much energy? It's like, I don't know. Because I rest. That's why.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so then on the flip side, of course, we go into ourselves during the new moon. Now going into a full moon, again, we talked about like releasing and this and that. So when we did the full moon cycle or rituals, you gave us 3 pieces of paper to write on. Would you like to share what those were for, to give people an idea of what they can do?
Yeah. So on a full moon, I mean, it's like you said, it's about releasing what no longer serves you. And so when we do a full moon circle, we pull in the astrology of the time. And full moons are really special because you have the moon that's like completely lit up by the sun. So you take in that opposition. So for example, we did full moon in Sag. So it was Sagittarius is where the moon sits and the sun sitting in Gemini. So you got to like look at both of those axes and like, what does that create for your energy? And so you release it during that time. So there's always like a beautiful focus of like, this is what we should look at right now. This is where the energy is like primed for us to do the work, to have it move and to call in what we need to. So the 3 pieces of paper were for your one to what are you releasing? What are you getting rid of? Write it down, destroy it, send it away. The other one was, what do you want to call in? What do you want to set for your future self? So I'm going to get rid of this because I'm making space for this. And we always write it in the sense of like, I already have it. So I always tell people like, feel into it. Imagine, okay, if I have this thing, this wish, once it's realized, who's going to be there? How will I feel? What will be around me? What are these things that I will have? And you write it in that sense of like, I got this already. I have these people with me. I have this thing happening and I feel so amazing about it. And I'm so grateful. Which brings me to the 3rd piece of paper, which was gratitude. And that is something that I feel like we don't spend enough time on is gratitude for ourselves, for what the universe brings in, for what it takes away. And just, we wrote something, I had everybody just write, what are you grateful for? And then we passed it to the left. And it's kind of like, you could write something personal, you could write something very broad. It didn't matter, but if it called to you to write it and then you're sending it, that's what was meant for that person. Right. And I feel like gratitude is a big component of moon circles, and following that is to just say like, thank you for drawing my attention here. Thank you for giving me this space to grow. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to release. Because we can't do it on our own and we can do the work, but the energy is such a big factor into how quickly and what, right?
Exactly. I think that's like well, in terms of this world that we're in, it is an exchange of energy as well, like keeping the energy moving and not being stagnant, because that's when things fester, and you know what I mean. So moving the energy along, good or bad, right, can help process things a lot easier. Yeah,
Absolutely. And like I found that I have this like 5-minute journal somebody gifted to me, and like honestly, if you ever get stuck in life and feel really crappy, pick it up. You don't have to write in it every day, but the beautiful thing about it was that it taught me to express gratitude on like minuscule levels. Like, I'm thankful for this warm shower today, or, I'm thankful for the sun. I'm thankful for my kids' hugs. It's just these beautiful ways to like reflect and even just be grateful for the small things, which I think we miss a lot. And those are what kind of keep us going, is our everyday stuff that we almost take for granted. When we acknowledge those beautiful pieces or those things that are great in our life, they just multiply. They keep happening. They get bigger. They get more beautiful. They get more wholesome. And when we just express gratitude for the big things, like, oh, thank you, universe, for this job or this new thing in my life that's big and extravagant, we kind of miss those small steps that how we got there. So.
Yeah. Exactly.
I always do that. Like do like a small thing of gratitude when I'm driving, when I just happen to catch a green light still before it hits yellow. I'm just like, thank you, thank you, thank you. I may not even be in a rush, but I was like, oh, that's awesome. I don't have to stop. Or whatever the case is, where you're just like, oh, I have to go, say I have him in the back, and I'm like, be really great if I could just push the thing back or grab a soother quick, but I need to stop or whatever. And this happens to be a red light where I'm like, okay, sweet. Then I can quickly do that. He's good. And I'm like, okay, thank you.
Timing aligned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find that like in my day-to-day life, or like when I do readings or even conversations, I feel like these days, again, it's like the theme of the month is like making sure to thank yourself for what you've done for yourself and recognizing like as a human, you are a truly a magnificent thing that's done so much for yourself, right? And help. And the only reason that you're able to move through these things is because you've got to want to move through it. So it is being thankful that you have, even though you may not have any energy, or it was really fucking hard, or like, you know, it's a really big wave to ride, like you've still been able to put yourself on the ride, put yourself on the board to travel it and ride it out, right? So being thankful.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. It's, that's something that I don't often do is like express gratitude for to myself. Like I'm all about, I love everybody and I'm so grateful for everything. And I verbalize it on a regular basis. And like Bev jokes, she like calls it my Care Bear stare. I don't know if you guys you remember Care Bears.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so she's like, oh, tone down your Care Bear. I can just feel it because I'm just like, oh, shooting so much love and gratitude outwards. And like, it's beautiful to have her recognize that. But then on the flip side, it's like, I got to show gratitude to myself for like, hey, good job, shoes on today. Like I'm proud that you're here. I'm thankful that you showed up for yourself.
Exactly. You showed up, you fed yourself well today, or you made sure you drank your water, or you
You should almost stand in front of a mirror and do the Care Bear stare to yourself.
I should. That's a great idea.
Exactly.
You're like,
I'm going to.
work, Jamie.
Yeah. Actually, one thing I do, I don't know if it's embarrassing or not, but like literally weekly, I probably give myself a physical like hand on the back or like pat on the back. Like I'll be driving, like, oh, I did it. Yeah. Because I'm like, I gotta do that. Like I gotta show not just my mind that I'm thankful, but like my body too. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Body is a side of whatever, our feelings are so valid on each of our bodies. Do you know what I mean? But it's like physically my carriage, what do they call it? Your
vessel?
Flesh?
Oh, your meat suit.
Meat suit got me here. Do you know what I mean? Or it's helping me put pen to paper, literally. It's helping me produce what I need to produce. So
yeah, thank you for that beautiful reminder. I'm locking it in to do it to myself. It's been one of my efforts to show myself some more love, which I think lots of people struggle with too, but it's definitely something that I have a hard time with. I'll be the first person to give out love and gratitude to everybody else and be like, it's fine. I don't need it. But I do.
Literally, if that's your love language is like words of affirmation for others. Right?
Yeah.
Or things, or you know what I mean? Again, being the yes person and always being the one to show up and you know what I mean?
Making the time and dropping everything else.
Exactly. Yeah. So
well, and going back to the moon phases, is there any other phases that you'd like to go through?
I mean, the two that we like put the most focus on obviously are the new moon and the full moon. And like with the new moon, we obviously want to call in intentions and like what we want. And yes, there's like this beautiful manifestation spot for us. But like all the other moon cycles, it's, it leads up. They all kind of work with each other to help you get from one to the next. And like we talk about new moon and full moon because they're the anchors on either end of that, but we don't really like get into the details of the other ones. And you kind of like, when you're doing full moon circles or ritual, you just kind of blend the two together. But again, like my super analytical mind is like, there's more energy here for something. Like, what are all these other phases do? It can't just be a new moon that we have energy and a full moon. Like, what? So it's kind of like, I look at the new moon as like the create phase, right? So like we acknowledge our goals or like our, intentions, things that we want to bring in. And we dig into ourselves to like, what do we really want in here? Like in my heart space, what do I want? And we pull that forward. And it's kind of like planting the seed, right? So we're like putting it in the dirt. Okay, well, it doesn't just like show up and grow into this beautiful flower. No. You got to put some more effort in.
Exactly.
So
water it.
The like, like the waxing crescent's kind of like your launch phase. And like moon phases are short, right? It's like 29 and a half days. So this all moves really quick. And you can play on either end. You can just do your new moon and just do your full moon and kind of do everything in between. But like when you look at the other phases, you can really start to understand like your energy level, maybe your emotional like phase, what you're going through, and then It's like, okay, that's why I set this intention here. Now we have our waxing crescent. Okay, now I'm going to add action to my intention. Like, I'm going to really start thinking, like, how do I get to that? Because it's beautiful to write it on a piece of paper. The universe doesn't do it for you, right? It just gives you those energy windows or that time and space to say, like, now, like right now is when, if you put this energy and effort into yourself or what you're trying to achieve, this is what's going to happen. You'll start to be, propelled forward, and it'll start to really happen for you. So waxing crescent happens after the new moon. That's kind of like your launch phase. And then you have your first quarter, and that's kind of where you start to gain momentum. So you're really starting to work towards your intentions during that time, and like look at, okay, what am I trying to do with this intention? How do I work towards it? And then you have like your full moon, which, it's not really on the anchor, it's kind of in the middle of it realistically. And that's like the conclusion part, but it's what you want to get rid of. And so you look at what you want to get rid of, and then your next phase is like your waning. So that's when you reflect. Okay, how did I do? How was my progress? Thank you for giving me these spots and these things. But like now we're into the third quarter, which again, like these are like 2-3 day phases. So it's fast, but it's there. And you kind of, that's when you really release and you kind of surrender, and you just go, you know what? I didn't make any mistakes. There's nothing that was bad here. I just need to let it go. I don't need to be attached to it. Let's clear my space. Let's get rid of it. And then right before the new moon, you have your waning crescent, and that's like your rest phase. So again, that's why you're tired. That's why you feel drained, because it's giving you that time to rest and like start to reflect on this and just surrender into it. And then you have your new moon again, where it's like, okay, I went through that one. Now what? Now next. And it just like, it's this beautiful repetition. And, the more that you flow with it and the more that you welcome in that energy and work with it, I honestly, like, I wouldn't be here if I hadn't have like dove into this and really like worked with these cycles and worked the process. And that's just my personality, but it was really beautiful to have a guide to like, okay, here's when you should let go. Here's when you need to rest. Here's when you need to bring in. And it was just like, this makes so much sense to me.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people I think that when you are dealing or like acknowledging the moon cycles, you have to like go hard. You got to do the whole thing, right? But I mean, for my understanding, my own practice is it's like a mindful moment is just as productive than like a full ceremony or ritual. So for somebody who doesn't have, or I shouldn't say doesn't have the time, but doesn't know how to invest the time, what do you recommend for somebody just kind of getting started, and if there's any like, does that make sense? Am I asking the right question?
Yeah, like I mean, not everybody has time to sit with themselves every 2 days to go, okay, what's next? Like, let's take a mental note or a tally of my, haves and haves nots, or what have I done, what have I not done. I think just like even just picking one, like I have so many people that either come to the new moon or come to the full moon, and there's some people that come to both because they kind of get that either end of it, but they are very different in that sense of like what you're doing. So some people are just like, yeah, I want to dive into my shadow. I feel really energized. I want to connect with people during this time, and I want to let go of all the things. So they'll, full moon. And then there's some people that are like, I really want to be more of myself. I really want to call in this energy. I want to learn who I am, and I want to like bring these pieces out. And that's what the new moon is for them. Well, for everybody.
Yeah.
So it's just almost like, I mean, do some research. Like, there's so much out there. Find some really great Instagram's just been wonderful for me to like even just the astrology. Like some people that post about astrology is really great to like, oh hey, we're coming into this energy, so it's like I'm gonna focus here. And knowing your sign, so like your rising, your moon, and your ascendant is really important, because that even further helps you like pinpoint what you should deal with based on the energy. So you can practice on your own, and there's no right or wrong. Like that's the beauty about it. It's just feel it and do it, and don't worry about a set, like I have to do this, I have to do this, and I have to do that next. It's just feel into what you want. Journal, like that's the biggest thing. Journal during that time, and you'll kind of just dive into it, and it'll just kind of continue growing for you if it's something that resonates. So yeah, just understanding the energy, find a little resource that'll help you with it, and journal your feels.
Love it.
Journal your feels. All the feelings are valid. Yes.
I could literally listen to Jamie speak forever. I'm just like, oh, her voice is just so soothing. No wonder the baby fell asleep. I'm just like,
Anytime, Britt.
all right, deal.
Well, before we plug all of your fun things going on, are we open to doing a card pull, right?
Yeah.
And then we had kind of said to Jamie before, people that are listening, we'll do our poll and we'll kind of see what inspires you at the end of this, if that's cool.
Absolutely.
If anything does, don't feel obligated. But so I'm gonna pull
Lots to
from
say.
Me too, I get it. I'm gonna pull up my animal spirit deck, which is like the one I do all the time. And we're just gonna see, you know, what people need to hear, what will give them confidence, what will give them affirmation for the week ahead when this comes out. Because we release on Saturdays. So kind of something to think about over the weekend, and then going to next week. So let's just see what we can do here. What's coming up? What's coming up? Sorry about my couch. Okay, let's see here. Weird shuffle. You know, when you want it just doesn't feel right, just didn't feel right.
Yep. I like to when I
feel?
shuffle and
Yeah.
they like explode everywhere. I'm like, oh, we're good to go.
Exactly.
I don't know how many cards I've lost doing that, but
I know.
I love when that happens though, because you know that like it was a good shop. There's
yeah,
enough
it's charged up,
energy.
ready to roll.
Okay.
Oh, I
Yes,
know.
charged up. That's
Charged
the best
up's a
way to do
great
it.
way of-
I love that.
Do you put your decks out in the full moon?
Yeah, I do. Actually,
do
I did just get a what's it called? A what's it called? Pardon my language. Oh God, what is it called? It's like a ring I got it from Out of the Ordinary, and it is a.
Oh yeah. It's like I have no idea. It's like a gold ring that's
It's
supposed
to
to
help cleanse, not reduce.
clear.
Wow.
I'm trying to look it clear, but there's another word that starts with an R. Oh God. Anyways, but yeah, I put it on there. You put it like under things, or sorry, yeah, you put it like under your deck, and it helps draw out all the shit and all the like bad energy that you don't need. You know? I'm like
That's
totally
very
hitting,
cool.
like, it's gonna be really one of those things. Where I'm like, and I don't know. Wish me luck if I think that. Anywho, so animal of the week, I've got fire ant. So aggression, rigid thinking, following orders. Fire ant energy flares up without us noticing. It's the force that attracts us to people and situations that feed our imbalances rather than those that counter them. Gossiping and blaming are a few indicators that misaligned fire energy is at play. You may also find yourself stewing on a person or situation, only making things worse. How can you break free from the drama and cool down? Fire ants are surprisingly sensitive. Don't pretend the heat isn't getting to you. So when we're in balance, we are thoughtful or disciplined. When we're out of balance, we may argue, excessive heat, or gossip. To bring into balance solo time, walks at night. And I think that's really great going into a new moon, bringing in solo time and like collecting ourselves. Yeah.
And I mean, like right now, the energy is, you know, all about reframing our narrative. And so that's kind of a perfect if you're finding yourself feeling fiery for no reason or you're being silly about it. Look at it from a different perspective, you know, like, okay, what's this called? Where's this coming from? Why? And just reframe it, change your narrative in that sense.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's good. How are you doing, Britt?
Good, good. Yeah,
You're a champ, Britt. You got them.
Right? You get used to it, obviously. You guys, you've been there, so it's just like, all right, we're doing it.
Somebody else's turn now.
Yeah. So I'm pulling from the Wisdom of the Hidden Realms Oracle deck from Colette Baron Reed. This is one of my newer decks, and I definitely love it so far here. And so the card that I was able to pick out is Gaia's Garden. So it's like fruition, abundance, you reap what you sow. And so this is very much you have everything you need right now to make your dreams come true. There's enough to go around for everyone, which I do feel strongly with when someone sees somebody else winning, or say they got a promotion or they were able to receive something unreal in their life. The immediate response is jealousy, as if there isn't enough to go around.
Yeah.
which is so silly when you think of like, that's the heart of jealousy is there isn't enough success for everybody.
Yeah, that's that 3D mentality of like, I need the things,
That's
it's
it.
it's an
Exactly.
endless supply for everybody.
Exactly.
Literally. Yeah. So this is very much a success is coming to you from the fruits of your intentions and all's well in the world as a result. So yeah.
It's
Good thing-
beautiful.
good
That's
thing
really
going-
great because it kind of like ties everything together here. It's like our garden that we have to nurture
Yep.
and water and and weed from occasionally, right? So
Yeah.
we've got every cycle within that Gaia's garden
Yeah.
and the green of envy, it's
Right.
it's very
Very powerful, very beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that.
No, and I like that you touched on the piece that I've really, seen start to happen even just with the three of us is like championing each other. It's like your success is so beautiful and that you're willing to share that is just even more beautiful. And it's like, how do we uplift each other rather than tear that down? And, that's something that our society kind of is lacking right now. So when you can find people that champion you and are just generally happy or proud of you for doing you and getting the fruits of the universe, like, man, hold on to those people because they're few and far between.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Actually, with the fire ant energy and like the gossip is kind of coming up for me right now too. When I think about our community and like, Saskatoon or local or wherever, we have our like boss babes, but within those groups, we know firsthand that we're not always proud of each other. I shouldn't say that we're not, but you know what I mean? There's always gossip and negativity that comes from those people in one way or another, because it is always their judgment is always there, right?
And the competition.
Exactly. It's like, yes, we support you, but I don't want you to do better than me, or I'm jealous of your success. So I think that's like,
yeah, which is wild.
Changing the narrative and like taking that out of there, that jealousy and that judgment, and
And at the end of the day, like jealousy and judgment really only detriment yourself.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to be gossipy, that reflects poorly on you. If you're going to champion somebody else, people see that, they recognize that, they want to be a part of that energy and they go, yes, that's somebody I want in my circle.
right.
That's somebody I want, behind me going, I'm so proud of you. Like I missed out on that opportunity, but you grabbed it. Like, oh, good for you. Like we need more of that.
I used to say that I was like, because Brittany and I's gifts are like really different, and I used to say I'm so jealous of your gift, so jealous of your gift, and it was like within the last like few months that I'm like, we can't, like, we have to work together. Clearly, do you know what I mean?
Saying, I was like, your gifts are just different.
Exactly. And I'm like, oh, I wish I did that. Like, gotta stop wishing for more or different.
And recognizing what you have.
Exactly. And then it's like building on that, and then together, what can we do together to bring everybody up? Do you know what I mean? So
Absolutely. And you know what? If all of our gifts were the same and they all walk the same and talk the same, would they be really gifts at the end of the day?
We wouldn't learn at all from each
nobody
other.
would learn. Exactly.
Right. And it's kind of like, I know in my mentorship class right now, like there's so many amazing, amazing people with amazing abilities. And, before maybe a year ago, if I was in this setting, I'd have been like, oh, same feeling like, oh, why can you do that? And I can't, like, I'm super like jealous of that, but like really happy for you. And I've just kind of like stepped back and been like, you know what? That's not my space and that's okay. But I do have these things. And I'm like, okay, let's just grow these things and we'll share all together. It's
Exactly. And I think that that's like where we've like with this podcast, it's like we started as almost like a how-to or like an intro to all of these things, where I feel like we've turned it more into like a spotlight on the different types of gifts and interests and things. Yes, it's the intro to a lot of it, but I think it's like shining the light that even though it's different, it doesn't mean it's bad or unusual or, it's
And it
like
gives an opportunity for the people that are interested to be able to dive further, to be like, okay, so Jamie does this, so if I contact her, this is where I can go next with that.
Yeah. Or we can connect and and this and that. Yeah, so I think it's been opening some doors for everybody. But I think that's great that we can, if the only thing a lot of us have in common is the want to learn and grow or hit the burgeoning point, then then there we are, right? Like,
Right. And it's really beautiful when you can, like you said, Britt, like maybe this is for me a little bit more either because there's so much here in this space, right? Like you guys have endless years of podcasts that you can
Oh,
do.
yeah.
And it really is just like finding that piece that calls to you a little bit stronger. Like for me, it was Moon. It was like, okay, man, there's some serious magic here. Like, I don't know about spirituality. I don't like, I kind of know, but I don't feel. And it's like, I feel this call. I'm going to dive in here. And then it just like opens up this little pathway for you. It's like a choose your own adventure. Like, oh man, that's exciting. And then, oh man, there's more here. And you keep going. An
exactly.
endless, intake of energy and learning and information and just finding what's for you.
Yeah. For as long as we want to learn, there will always be something to learn and someone to teach us, right?
Yes.
Like there's always going to be something.
And that's a beautiful thing. I'm like so grateful that you guys have this platform and that you're doing this. And like you said, shining a spotlight on all these amazing people and their gifts and like what they bring. And,
That
as a
includes
collective.
Includes you. Pat yourself on the back, group.
Okay, good job. But it really is just this beautiful way to like help wake up the collective and to just create something that is purely beautiful and not from that jealousy state or that lack state.
Exactly.
So thank you guys for
course.
creating this space. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, where blah, blah, blah. Where can people find you?
Yeah. And what's coming up? What do
Yeah.
you want to share? Any projects, any events you want to plug? Feel free. The space is yours and I'll add everything to our notes at the end. But go ahead.
Awesome. Yeah. So every month at Bev's Healing Center, I do a new moon and a full moon, and they're about 2 weeks apart from each other, give or take. I try to do them as close to the actual full moon and new moon as I can to just capture that energy. So offering those again in July, probably taking a break in August because I'll be traveling, but I fully have every intention to keep this going as long as there's the call and as long as people show up. I try to keep the circles to about 6 people, so they are starting to fill up a lot quicker, which is like this amazing blessing. I'm just like, oh, okay, wow, I've got like almost sell out. So it's really humbling for me for sure. But yeah, so it's room for 6 just to keep that intimate feeling. And I do encourage, like, if you have or if anybody's interested, come to both. Come to a new moon, come to a full moon. If you can do them back to back, even better, because that energy is like still flowing and it's all connected to each other.
Yeah.
And really some beautiful stuff happens. Outside of that, yeah, I do like intuitive reads for people. And you can find me on theburgeoningpoint.com, I believe. I probably get my website wrong. Like, let's be real, that'll happen.
We'll make sure it's correct in the show notes. So
Don't
it doesn't
worry.
Okay,
matter.
great. Yeah, you can also find me on at Burgeoning Point and message me through there. As I said at the beginning, I'm like terrible with social media, so I'm trying my hardest to like be more prominent on that.
All good.
But yeah, that's it for right now. I've got a few kind of projects that I dedicated this year to myself to like learning. So that's what I'm doing. I'm intaking, I'm learning, and I've kind of got a few things brewing in the back that I'm like super excited that'll launch kind of towards the end of this year. So kind of keep posted on that. But
yeah, well, I definitely think that we should have you back
Yes.
as often as you want to come. You're welcome back anytime, every time. It's all
Yes.
good. We'd love to have you on. And I'm just so excited to see where you're gonna grow to.
Well, we threw out the idea and we will discuss it further and hopefully post about it sooner or later of doing a virtual either new moon or full moon together type of deal. So we will have that in the planning books and we will put that out this year sometime. That'll be our goal.
Absolutely. Awesome. I'm so excited and I can't wait to do more things with you guys. So
yes.
For sure.
Oh, we love you so much.
Yeah,
Jamie.
thank you so much, Jamie. Honestly,
So
like
beautiful.
it's been a blessing to have you in our lives. For everybody else listening, you guys can find us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, Basic Banter for Witches, and email us at basicbanterforwitches@gmail.com.
Yeah.
So yeah, otherwise, you hang on the line, Jamie. We're gonna wrap this up here, and then, well, yeah,
that's it. That's all.
That's all. So
Thank
we'll see
you
everybody
guys
next time. Thanks again for tuning in,
Bye-bye.
and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye now.